everybody. How are you doing on there we go. On this fine Sunday evening. You know, we got some fun things to talk about tonight. I know that the USA game is going on right now, but you could do the two screen thing. So let's do that and talk some Inter Miami tonight. It should be fun, but as always, I don't do this by myself. Everybody say hi to everybody's favorite Uncle Ed. I'm a little tongue tied here, Ed.
How's it going, Peter Brown? And that's how it was in the last Spanish show too. I was like, it was
Well,
crazy, man.
as I started talking, a little message popped up and it threw me off. But
Oh, it happens.
it
That and the
happened.
U.S. national team is playing at the same time that we're doing this show, which was probably a big mistake. But oh
Yeah,
well.
probably. But if I was paying attention to the Gold Cup, I would have known that when I scheduled the show. But guess what? I'm not doing paying attention to Gold Cup. Not for any reason, just hasn't caught my attention because of Club World Cup and all the stuff with
Yeah,
Inter Miami. Just hasn't caught my
too much
attention.
soccer going on.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. And you kind of got to pick where you. And we asked this question recently, is like, are you more a club fan or a national team fan? And, you and I both fall on the club. Like, I'll watch, I want the US to do well and I watch the World Cup and all that stuff. But when it comes head to head, I'm choosing Inter Miami, generally speaking. So
Yeah, man. I used to be. I mean, back in the day, Peter Brown. I don't know if you know, but I was like the vice president of
I
the
do know.
American Outlaws when it first
Yes.
started. So back in the day, I was more into it, but now,
Well, hopefully everybody had a good 4th of July. I had a busy one. I spent the 4th up in Ocala. Then Friday I was in Ocala. Saturday I woke up in Ocala. Then drove to Disney Springs. Had lunch at Disney Springs. Then was here. Went and saw Jurassic World this morning. So busy 4th of July weekend. Hopefully you had a good 4th. Ed too. Did you see any fireworks?
there are plenty of fireworks all around town, but didn't do much. We just went out and ate and hung out, and that's about it. That's all we did.
Well, there's plenty of fireworks on the field last night as Inter Miami wins 4-1. So we'll get into that. Plus, there's some rumors and other fun stuff to talk about. So last week, if you remember, Ed kind of somehow assigned homework to me, and I did it. So, but it's that kind of homework that there's no real timeline on. So if we get to it today, we'll talk about how much teams spend and things like that over the last 5 years. So we'll get into that potential maybe, but you guys help drive the show. So if you guys want to talk about Rodrigo De Paul instead, we can spend a lot of time doing that. So get active in the chat, and we'll let you guys help drive the conversation and see where we end up. But before we go too far, let's say thank you to our sponsor, and that is Caneswear. Caneswear is located in Davie, Florida, just south of 595 on University Drive. They have the messiest wall in all of South Florida. You can go to caneswear.com if that's too far. All orders over $99 ship for free. So go to Caneswear. All right, everybody. And let's see, who do we have in the chat, Ed?
Yeah, well, the first one I see right there, Peter Brown, is Sports Shorts.
Sports Shorts is here. And that's the first person I see as well. So welcome, Sports Shorts. Damian Guzman is here. Aloha, Nick Smith. Kevin Gonzalez, welcome back. Haven't seen you here in a while. Says he'll be in the Nashville game on Saturday. Awesome. Traveling. That's great. One World, One Goal is here. Still in Miami, she says. What else? A new Weissman checking in from Atlanta. Who cares about Gold Cup? There you go. There's been a lot of good soccer in Atlanta. The one thing as far as Atlanta, when I was watching the Club World Cup, it didn't look like Atlanta cared about the Club World Cup either. This stadium was pretty empty, I felt like. My daughter just sent me a text, unrelated, about she's seeing a Anakin Aussie Doodle puppy for sale in Longwood, Florida. My daughter wants me to get us a dog. So.
Oh boy, Peter, and that's a commitment right there.
She's shopping. Anyways. Oh yeah, wow. Mr. Krabs is here. Get some Florida Panthers merch at Caneswear. 2-time Stanley Cup champions, baby. Yeah, they've got all the local teams there. A lot of and I mentioned this last week. They had a lot of Florida Panther players come through the store. So I think that's already done. But they had follow them on Twitter and stuff like that, and so you can find out whenever they're going to have an event inside the store. So
Yeah.
all right, Ed, where do you want to start?
Well, let's go with what people are asking for, Peter Brown. You can see there's a lot of comments of a certain player that seems to be of interest lately.
So you want to start with Rodrigo De Paul is 31 years old. That's too young for this team, according to Mr. Krabs. So the big rumor that just popped up, and I seen the rumor, really paid attention. I saw it briefly, but again, I had a very busy weekend. Had I seen the rumor a little bit earlier when I made the thumbnail, I may have put his picture in the thumbnail, but I didn't. I saw it pretty much, and I do the thumbnail very early in the morning. So when I'm having my morning coffee, so. Hey, Nick Smith says he's in Longwood. He can deliver the puppy for me. I was just up there yesterday. Richard Greenberg from Toronto is here. There's some Toronto news as well. One World, One Goal saying that DePaul is Messi's bodyguard, so what's his face will lose his job. Oh, okay. Joke.
He's talking about I forgot the name now.
I don't remember how you say his name.
That dude. Yeah.
But there's a rumor that Rodrigo De Paul is going to come, or is Miami wants him to come here, and that Jorge Mas is currently in Madrid talking to him and or his agent and or the team. Reports from Michelle Kaufman were that Real Madrid don't want to let him go, and that it would be they would have a $17 million transfer fee.
It's actually the other Madrid team. It's
I said Real. I meant Atletico.
Yeah.
Anytime I think Madrid, I think Real, and it's even though I know it's Atletico, the words Real come out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
but yeah, it's still a pretty penny, man. And do we have a DP spot?
So we technically do. So I looked it up a little bit. So, with the way the league works right now, you can do 2 DPs with 4 U22 initiative players, or you can do 3 DPs and 3 U22s, right? I thought we were doing the 4 U22s and 2 DPs once as but at the beginning of the season, if you remember, Jordi Alba was a DP, but they restructured his contract, and he signed on for another 2 years. He is no longer a DP. So our DPs are Sergio Busquets and Messi, and that's it. So, but again, the reason I mentioned the U22 is because when I saw that we had 2 DPs, I was like, okay, do we have 4 U22s or 3? We have 3 U22s. U22 initiative players.
Right.
And I had that pulled up. I guess I lost it. So yeah, we have space. We have space. That's a long story to say we have space. But the other question I'm curious about is they were the talk, is it this summer or next summer? Right? Because some people are on Twitter assume that it's for next summer.
Right.
But in the article that Michelle Kaufman mentioned, she just says something about, it's the crazy transfer window season, So she didn't say anything about next, the way I read it, at least. So what do you think, Ed? 31 years old. He seems awful young to be coming to MLS. This is what we want, though. We don't want old retired players coming to MLS. We don't want the 39-year-olds unless your name is Messi. True, right? But
yeah, he's definitely younger than what we're used to. A DP at this stage, at his age, I think is pretty good. We can, use him definitely. I mean, Jordi Alba's going to stick around for a little bit. This guy's definitely going to stick around if he does come. And Messi, well, maybe we'll have him another year or two. So, and we don't know yet what Busquets is going to do.
Right.
We're kind of assume we know what's going to happen as far as is looking. He still plays great.
Rumors are he's not going to resign.
Right. So he might go back to Uruguay, maybe finish off another year, or he might just retire, man. Depends on what he wants to do.
Yeah, and I can't see a situation where we have Busquets and De Paul together. It doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, it sounds like they're
Would.
both basically doing the same job. So, and one's younger, and so you'd have DePaul. But keep in mind everything we're saying, like what Mr. Krabs says. We were rumored to get many players, and they never came. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt. So what we're saying here is we're not saying it's happening. We're just saying that Jorge wants it to happen. He's doing what he can to make it happen. But like any deal, man, there's so many things that can go wrong. Um, Again, I find it a little bit unlikely that because of his age that he would come to MLS. Again, that is what we want. We want players, high level players, famous big name players to come to this league before they're washed up. But I don't think the league is we're still not there yet, right? We're still not there to
Right.
where that would turn a lot of heads if a 31-year-old in his prime, because I still say 31's in your prime. If a
USA score.
31-year-old from Atletico Madrid came here in his prime, that would say something. That would say a lot about where MLS is potentially, ranking in people's, you know, view. I mean, like, on the radar.
Yeah, but it did say Michelle Kaufman did come out with this, so she's a great, reliable source. So she
Yeah,
did mention that Jorge is in Madrid. So
right.
that sounds like it's a really solid rumor.
Where's his Spanish team located? He has a team in,
Uh,
in Spain.
Zaragoza. It's Real Zaragoza.
Is that a city name too? Zaragoza?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
different city.
How
It's not
far
well.
away is that from
He,
Madrid?
he could be. The closest big airport is Madrid.
That's
So
where I'm getting
he
at.
might he might be headed over there.
Is a lot. Here's the other route. Is some of this. So we hear that Jorge is going there to talk because there are like, rumored sources that Michelle alludes to in her article.
Yeah.
But again, it's all unless a name is attached, it's all rumored. Could he really just be going over to check in on his Real Zaragoza? I mean, I'm sure he's going to do that anyways. If you're over there, you might. I mean, you're an owner of that club. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, and the thing one of the things is that he hasn't been that hands on with that team. I guess he's letting other people do this stuff. But I've read and I've seen on the over social media that a lot of people are complaining because they thought he was going to be more hands on.
I mean,
And
it's
they
hard to
want
be
their
hands on when you're living here, I guess.
yeah. It's tough. So there are some people concerned that he's not as involved as they think he should be.
So,
And Zaragoza is actually between Barcelona and Spain. So if you're taking a train,
well, they're
you
both in
have to
Spain.
go to Zaragoza. Yeah.
So, what do we think? Do we want like, okay, when you look at the issues that this team has, everybody keeps talking about we need a defender, we need a forward. He's neither. Is this the big spend you want? Because that's
We
a
need
big
another.
spend. 17 million is a very big spend.
But well, to replace Busquets, it's okay. I think it's replacing a guy that's going to distribute the ball. That's going to be the connection between the defense and the offense. Um, but yeah,
And so you're
if
assuming then that that's one DP, that we're going to go 3 DPs this summer or next year, Um, Eric calling you out, which because you said between Barcelona and Spain, between Barcelona and Madrid.
it is, I just saw it on the map.
I know, but you said Barcelona and Spain, so he's correcting you.
Oh, my bad, and
I
Madrid.
know. I let it go because I knew what you meant.
Mm.
Sports Short says Rodrigo De Paul is the only rumor right now. Yeah, I mean that's the only one that I'm hearing about right now. There's always, but you would imagine in the next weeks, there's going to be a bunch. I assumed so when I saw when I know that there's Club World Cup games happening in Miami. My question as I was watching some of them was, okay, Where's Jorge Mas, and where is he sitting and saying, okay, I want that player, I want that player, I want that? Because that's what he did, from what I understand, when Barcelona played against Inter Miami. He looked at Barcelona and said, okay, I want some of these players. And so when he's got these players in his backyard, he can sit and watch them up close. Granted, he's not a coach or anything like that, but he's still, he's got the checkbook. I'm curious, and how, if is he sitting there and just going, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one.
No, I think he sits next to Messi, and Messi says, "I want that one. I want that one."
Messi's turning his head, going, "This, look at
Yeah,
this guy. Look at this guy. Look at this
that
guy."
guy over there. Yeah. So
Hey,
I think a lot has to do. De Paul is a guy that would come to appease Messi and to make sure that he signs for a
right.
couple more years. So it looks like he's tailor made for Messi more than anything. Maybe because Busquets is going to leave, it kind of makes sense. That's he's going to be the guy that's going to replace Busquets.
And yeah, so exactly. So Messi hasn't re-signed yet, and it is, there's been talk that he wasn't super satisfied with the talent. Although that bugs me if he's mad about the talent, because you should have known what you're coming to, right? You should have known what
Right.
MLS is and the restrictions within MLS before you signed. You should know what you're getting into. So,
Right.
I mean, there's rules, and you got to play within them. But even Mascherano, kind of, in that article, there was some quotes from Mascherano. Basically, somebody was asking Mascherano about new players coming in, and he said something to the effect that that's not my job, and there's another person that does that, and they have to answer to that, not me, right? And alluding to the fact that that person, sporting director, that we don't know who it is because it's not been officially announced, right? I mean, we all think we know who it is, but nobody knows who it is. We're, Messi's boyhood friend or whatever. He's known him forever. But they're not doing their job right, if you think about it.
Well, and one of the things that you had written down about like Sailor finally getting on the field, David
Oh, so that
Martinez
was
was
personal.
on
That was
the field.
personal for me, because I've been talking about that, Ed. You remember, I've always saying, "Come on, I feel bad for Sailor. He got on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
field."
Thank goodness, about time, and that's good. They finally get him on. Of course, we're winning 4-1. So he didn't get he touched the ball a couple times, better than nothing, I guess. But I also mentioned that David Martinez got in there, and he supposedly is not going to re-sign. So I was
Right.
surprised that he went back. I thought in the Club World Cup they would have used him.
Yeah.
They didn't use him, but they used him in this game. I was
Right.
surprised. He would have been a better fit to go next to Paluca. I think both of them would have been great because that Toto is just
Train wreck.
unpredictable. Yeah, the dude's just he's making fouls. He almost cost us a penalty. I don't know if I think it was he was grabbing onto the shirt of the Montreal defender. I mean forward.
All right, so
That was annoying.
we're jumping around now because we were heading
Yeah,
on the topic, and now because now, since if you want to go down that path and talk about the game, let's listen to a voicemail, and let's listen to our buddy Yankee Boy as he called in again this week, and then that'll, I think, lead us into talk about the game.
It's time for your voicemail.
Hello.
What's up, mi gente? It's your boy Yankee again. Shout out to all of the family, especially First Lady of Futbol and NASCAR, One World, One Goal. Shout out to Eric, all the other folks, the Panizos, everybody. So just some quick thoughts. Congratulations on the win. You guys went up to Stade Saputo, and that's what it's called. I'm not trying to be funny. And you smacked down the Impact, which is what you were supposed to do, especially as the thumbnail indicates, given the vast difference in resources. I'm still a little bit confused. Last week, TB, you stole one of the thoughts out of my brain, but I was worried about the limited time that I had to leave my message about why Fafa hadn't gotten some run last week. Fafa got run in his matchup in Montreal, but you would have thought it would have been a lot sooner. I really don't understand what's going on, again, with your coach. Not my team, not my issue, but I just find it very perplexing. Messi scored his couple goals. Why not pull him off? You certainly don't owe the fans of Montreal anything. We already know that CF Montreal is jacking up the prices Canadian so that people can see Messi in what's probably the most intimate MLS stadium that I've ever personally attended a match at. So you guys keep it rolling, and hopefully your coach doesn't keep running and rolling Messi into the ground. Holler at you later, players.
So interesting enough is that is the smallest MLS stadium in the league. I don't know the exact count of seats, but it is the smallest stadium. So it's definitely the most intimate that you'll get to see him play in, Messi. So yeah, we won 4-1. I would agree, take him out, but again, Messi's the boss. Messi's not coming out unless Messi wants to come out.
That's what they say. I watched it in Spanish, and that's what the Spanish guy said. It looked like they yelled something to Messi, and Messi said, "No, hold on, I'm good."
Yeah.
So they were
So
asking him.
he is really in charge. I mean, he puts all the people surrounding that are his buddies and his friends, and so to some extent, and I've said this before, and you can yell at us as what you want, but some of this is Messi's fault. 19,619 is the stadium's size. One goal was close. One world was close at 18.5. But not quite. A little more. So interesting thing too. Like I said, I did a bunch of research, which we can get into if we so choose. But it was for the 2025. That game was the highest spending team versus the lowest spending team of 2025. So we should win, right? I mean, but the fact that they score first and everything like that, it just shows that anything can happen in this league, and the margins between who's the best and who's the worst, who spends most and who doesn't, you still, the margins are slim.
And the funny thing is, Peter, it was a brain fart of a goal, of a mistake. I'm sorry.
Messi was at fault. Messi was to blame. If you're a Messi maniac, sorry, it was his fault.
His fault. He made the mistake. Bad pass.
Oh, but will the Messi lovers out there, would they admit that? Can they see that? Can they admit that their hero, their idol, their god, potentially made a bad pass?
He did it.
But can they admit that? Can they admit that?
But he came back, almost scored 3 goals, man. They that one,
sure
the third
did.
goal should have been in, man, because I saw some of the what's it called, the lines that people were making, and it looked like it was good. He was onside.
Yeah, somebody posted some sort of an image with that.
But they didn't contest it. They were like, whatever. We already beat them 4-1, so good enough.
Yeah, hang on a second. We'll pull that up. Not Safari. Let's go WhatsApp. Boom.
There you go.
So there's that view you were talking about.
Yeah, it looks like he was just in there.
And when it was live, I agreed. I thought it was offside when it was live.
Yeah.
I agreed. I didn't see anything, But when you slow down and look at this, yeah, I mean,
when they showed the replay, they mentioned, it looks like he was okay, but
one goal still doesn't believe the picture.
Uh-huh.
She doesn't believe the picture and says it was off. Watch the replay.
Well, that's that. I saw the replay and it looked like it was in. I was like, wait a second.
I don't know. When I watched it live, I thought he was off when I watched it live, but this image definitely does, make you think otherwise.
Makes you go,
Yeah, things that make you go, So anyways, so dying minutes, basically, they start making a lot of subs. Fafa gets on. My boy, I'm happy he gets on it. And I see people, the people that don't really care about the league. They just care about one player. Complain about Fafa. They complain about Martinez. They say they're garbage. Things like that. Man, Fafa makes a difference when he comes on the field. He may not be the star player anymore, or maybe he never was, but he's an MLS journeyman that delivers, and he has scored goals in the small amount of minutes that he gets, but he deserves more, especially when someone like Suarez. I mean, he's struggling. Bring you. He could play. Fafa could play forward, or you could put if you don't want to do that, you put Allende as forward, and Fafa on the wing, right?
Right. They both play both positions, and we know they can both score, so that's a good thing. Tadeo made a goal. What's his
Beautiful
name?
goal.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, beautiful. So Abondo, and that's being mentioned in the chat as well. Here, Mr. Crowd says Alan Abondo is not getting minutes with Suarez on two bad knees, plays the whole game. Why do we have this player if we will not play him? I mean, isn't he a Madrid player? If I remember correctly, we have him on loan from Madrid. They have to be pissed, huh?
Atletico Madrid. That's the
I
team
didn't
he's
say
going
which.
to.
Ed, I played it safe. I played it safe, and I just said Madrid for a reason. So I didn't screw it up again.
Good maneuver. But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, Peter. He should be playing. I mean,
because
put him in this.
And I've heard people say, well, he doesn't play because he sucks. Well, how do you know? I mean, he hasn't had much time. I got to look it up his stat. How much time has he actually had this year? 20 minutes? 30 minutes maybe over the entire season?
Peter, he scored a goal.
I know, but if you read Twitter, people think he sucks, right? So,
right. He doesn't play that.
And that's why he's not playing, because he sucks. Well, but we don't know. Maybe he does suck, but I'd like to find out. Put him in the game, and then we can know if he really does suck or not. And if he does suck, well, then let's get rid of him.
Right.
Bring somebody else in.
It doesn't make sense because he's making a lot of money. I think I read somewhere, well, I think you've got the stats, Peter Brown, and that maybe that's a segue into that. But
well, I don't have I don't have individual player stats.
Oh, okay.
I didn't pull that. I mean, I do. Okay, hang on.
Let's see what you can come up with. Magic you came up with. You did your homework.
Obando is currently making $527,885.
Meanwhile, Yannick Bright is making 83.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna make you guess. What do you think he's making?
I think I heard it 83,000.
83,647. Ding, ding, ding. Ed, you win.
And he's a great player and a definite starter.
Yeah, but he's hurt. Bright's hurt.
But, well, they need to re-up him with some extra bucks because that kid is good.
Yeah, I agree. But he's hurt. So, but yeah, Abando's getting paid quite a bit.
For being on the bench.
And just sitting on the bench. But again,
hey, I'm Ecuadorian too, but hey, if he's not playing.
Yeah. Here, well, we can. I'll show you guys where I actually am getting this information. It's not any big surprise. There we go. Ooh, let's get it centered. There we go. So the MLS Players Association, as of May 23rd, these are the salaries. So Bright's making 83.
I
almost
hope
84.
he's rooming. Otherwise, it's all going to the rent. Because it's expensive in South Florida.
Yeah.
Or have him move into Peter Brown's house.
I don't have any room. No room here. No room in the inn. No room at the inn, Ed. But One World, One Goal is saying they need to fire all their scouts. Well, okay. Those scouts brought you Allende and they brought you Segovia. Both of them I'm happy with. I mean, Segovia has had a couple bad games here and there, ups and downs, right? But overall, I mean, he's still a young guy. Overall, I'm happy with him.
Me too.
And
Same
same
with
thing
the
with Allende. Allende, I mean, he scores. He's had a couple bad games here and there, ups and downs, but for the most part, he's been pretty solid. So those same scouts found some good players. But, and again, is Obando bad? I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
we don't know enough. He scored a goal. I guess that's good, but he hasn't had the minutes. I'd be surprised if he actually has accumulated like 90 minutes combined of play since he got here.
okay. 90 minutes?
Yeah.
I said like 30 minutes. Obondo's gotten
Uh-huh.
more time than you think. So he's gotten a total of 181 minutes across
Wow.
all competitions, 154 minutes in MLS, and 27 minutes in Champions Cup, according to Transfer Market US. I think Transfer
He
Market's
was
pretty,
well, yeah.
good source.
Look at it. Just
So he's
seems
had
like
more minutes than we think, but still, that is not enough. When you talk about how we are halfway through the season, basically, pretty much, and he's just getting like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. He's not getting a lot. I think somebody in the chat said, I'm not sure where it was, but somebody had mentioned that he should start getting more minutes as the congestion starts. We're having a lot of games. Like for example, we had a game on Saturday. We've got a game this Wednesday, both on the road. We're playing in New England. I was watching that New England game a little bit just so I can see if they're any good. They lost to Portland. Oh, that was funny. That was funny in Portland game. Did you watch it? Did you watch the Portland game? So the ball went out of bounds, right? And it rolled to Phil Neville, the coach of Portland, our former coach. Phil Neville grabs the ball, and now it's going to be his team's throw in. So he wants to get it to his team fast. But it's not, the player is far enough away to where it's not like a little throw the ball like this. He threw the ball like this, overhand threw it to the player, and then instantly was like,
wow, really? He threw his arm out.
And then he was like walking it off a little bit, and he's like, I'm okay. That's when your mind tells you I'm an athlete, and your body says, no, you're an old man. You're not an athlete anymore.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I cracked up because that is something that would happen to me.
I'm gonna look it up and we're gonna get that video, man. That's hilarious.
Funny. It was funny. Oh yeah, Nick Smith is the one that said it. Obando will get minutes because of congestion of games. So Nick Smith is saying most of Obondo's minutes were in the one Dallas game. Right. So that makes sense. I do remember there was one or two games where he got a decent amount of time and maybe even got a start. But it's just not enough of a sample size for us to really judge whether he's good or not. I do remember the limited time that I saw him. I thought he really did a good job of holding the ball, shielding the ball, and to be kind of, because he's big and he could do that. And it seemed like perfect to hold the ball and then let Messi or somebody else run off, and then he could just pass it to him. Even if he doesn't score, he could be useful in that way. I mean, but again, that was very limited time, so I don't know. And in the New England game, as Mr. Krabs says, we're going to be facing ex-Inter Miami player Leonardo Campana. Campana did not score. What's that?
Campana's been hurt. He got hurt again. He hasn't played very much.
He played this weekend. He did not score, but he did put on a little Leo Messi kind of demonstration there in the box at one point. He was like zigging and zagging and juking and this and that, moving around a bunch of players. In the end, it didn't go in the goal or anything, but he was like putting on a little show there. It's like, oh, he learned that from his time here, maybe.
And he needs to show off as soon as he can because Ecuador's going to the World Cup. They need a forward, and he needs to, make it happen. Otherwise, he's staying in New England.
And I'm sure he wants to move on up, right? I would imagine everybody does. So Inter Miami, obviously they're currently they are in 6th place with that win. So that is way too close to 7th place, which is the cutoff line for the playoffs. And so, luckily, though, if you look at this, we have only played 17 games, and everybody else have played like 21. So we have quite a few games in hand because we were not playing because of Club World Cup. And even before that, we had at least one game in hand over most teams. So we definitely have opportunities to move up. You would assume that we should be able to beat New England based on where they are, but anybody, that doesn't mean anything on any given day.
Doesn't mean diddly, Peter.
I know, but it does, give you a little bit of an idea of how they're doing this year at least.
We have potentially 12 points we can make up, and if we catch up to the other guys, we could make 44 points. We'd be in first place if we win all games.
And this week next Saturday, we have our first home game in a while, and it will be against Nashville. That's going to be a tough game and a big game, right? Because Nashville being in second place, that'll be a very, very big game.
A must win.
I would agree. That would definitely be a must win. So apparently, we've got a win game is giving us a Gold Cup update 1-1. Gold Cup update 1-1. I think I saw in the chat that the U.S. had scored first. So this is just Mexico just scored.
I mentioned it too, but you weren't paying attention, Peter Brown.
I don't usually listen to you, Ed.
And it's only 29 minutes. So you guys, if you're watching at the same time you're watching this, we should be done soon. So you guys will be able to watch the second half without looking at our ugly faces.
Yeah, maybe we'll end a little early so everybody can get to the game. But they definitely, we've got some work to do in the MLS is what I'm saying. Is we didn't need to worry about winning the Shield. We've already done that, but getting that star above the crest is of top priority. But of course, we definitely have Leagues Cup coming up as well. But the league is on pause at that point, so I guess you focus on that for 1 month, and that's it. But
oops.
If I want, this is not going to happen, but it just a thought just came to my mind is that if MLS Cup is the most important, would you consider resting players during Leagues Cup?
You'd still want them to be informed, so you would at least make them play a little bit.
You could rotate and rest players on, like you could rest Messi in the first game, let him play in the second and third. You can rest Suarez in the second game. You know what I mean? You can rotate it. I don't think they will, but I want, because these players want to play. Suarez is just as bad as Messi. Suarez knows he's not playing well. He knows it, but he didn't want to come out, and he bitches and moans about everything.
But it's funny because like I had said earlier, they were telling Messi if he wanted to come off, and he said no because he gets so into it, and I imagine like you, Peter Brown, back in the day when you used to play and just hang out next to the goal and just tap the goals in, you wanted to play. You wanted to score those goals even though you didn't do any effort. That was important for you. And you weren't listening to me, were you?
A little bit. But I'm also looking for the next thing to talk about. Inter Miami has 3 or 4 DPs. We have two DPs. Which then makes everybody that hates Inter Miami, everybody else out there going, how in the world are they doing this? They are cheating. How in the
cheating?
You restructure the deal. I mean, that's it. And I even questioned this before a previous show. I don't know if it's legal or not, but it sounds like this kind of thing does happen though. Where
have to.
Where, for example, you sign a player and 1 year he's a DP, for example, and the next year he's not. And then you overpay on that first year and then underpay on the second year. And when you average it out, he made what he wanted to make, right? So, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly how it's done, but it seems to make sense to me. And it looks like that is potentially what is done. Like when you look at like a Jordi Alba, that to me looks like maybe that's what's done there.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you overpay 1 year and just say, we're going to give you more than you're worth because we're going to give you less those other, and it all averages out.
The only one they didn't do that with was Suarez. He's always been what's it called? A TAM player.
TAM player. Yeah. No. Yeah. He came in on the Messi discount. Just wanted to play with his buddy.
He wanted to play with his buddy, and he made a lot of money anyway. So he's like, I don't need to make more money.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
Just wants to be with his bud. Maybe Messi's passing him some bucks. Hey, man, I'm going to sell you a couple million.
Messi bucks? They got some Messi bucks?
Yeah. Hey, bud, I'll sell it to you right now. Okay.
Is Argentina going to put his face on the like the equivalent of the $1 bill over in Argentina?
Who, Suarez? Suarez is a Uruguayan.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking Messi. He got because we said Messi bucks. We said Messi bucks. So will we see real Messi bucks? Could
I think that could happen. There'll definitely be a church. I mean, Maradona got a church.
Maradona got a church. Messi definitely got one because
Messi's gonna have one too.
Because Maradona was also a bit of a train wreck, right? So and Messi is not. Yeah, Messi's not. So if you're gonna idolize one person, then there's that.
Idolize the guy that's good and doesn't do drugs and
Right.
He's in the righteous path.
Right, exactly. Straight and narrow. Just always on TV hawking stuff.
Making that
Mr.
money.
Krabs. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs is out. All right, thanks for hanging out. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs.
Go watch that USA game.
One World, one goal saying, is he on the Monopoly money? The Argentina version, maybe. But I'm talking about put him on the real money. Why not?
That could be how you do it too, man, if you think about it. No, I think that would be illegal, right? If Messi would be the guy that would sell the guy's money.
Yeah, that would be illegal. Yeah. Francisco says Maradona is the idol of the barrio.
He was a great player too, though. He just he would have been so much better if he didn't do the white powder. He would have played more. Yeah, he would have played more. He would have done more things, but he was suspended for a long time. They kicked him out of the World Cup. The team went down. They were on a high in that World Cup, the USA World Cup, and he did his thing. He got kicked out, and then the team lost the next game.
Well, as we're talking about money, why don't we do this? Talk a little bit about. Oops, what happened?
The stadium. Let's talk about the stadium.
That's actually my wallpaper.
Oh, looks nice, and that thing's going up quick. Oh, Peter Brown's having some technical difficulties, folks.
No, I'm just looking for where. Why is the application not showing? Hang on. Is it because I didn't do that? Oh, there it is.
There you go.
So talking about money. So Ed I threw something out there and Ed said something like maybe we could, okay. So I spent several hours going and pulling data since 2020. So this is from 2020 to 2025. So it's technically 6 seasons. I pulled budgets. I pulled from the MLS Players Association. So this is what they're reporting to the Players Association. I created spreadsheets. I created pivot tables. I did a lot of data work just for this stupid thing. How come I can't see it? Oh, there it is. I could see it on this screen, but I couldn't see it on the other screen where I actually move stuff. So this right here, because we were talking previously last week about kind of like who is the cheapest owners historically and who are the ones that are willing to spend. Because when we're talking about, this came up because we're talking about should they get rid of some of the MLS rules? Should they just open it up? And who of the owners might be willing to open it up? And if you look at the history, you might get an idea. But it's not so crystal clear as to who would be open when you see this graph. Look at this. The majority of the teams are very close to each other. And if you really take it from Atlanta, which is just at around 20 million, just under 20 million, down to, okay, San Diego being a newer teams tend to spend a little bit less in the beginning in their first year. Makes sense because they're also building stadiums and stuff like that. Although they didn't build one, but generally speaking. But when you look at so many of these teams here in the middle are all pretty close, just a couple million away from each other. The big spenders in this league tend to be Miami, Toronto, believe it or not, with Toronto being so bad, but they've just shed some serious salary with getting rid of Insigne and Bernadeschi. So that was a surprise. They got rid of both players at the same time. I thought Bernadeschi was good when he played. I know he's been injured, but when he plays, I think he's good.
Yeah.
But they're traditionally a big spender. So look at that. For the last 6 seasons, we are the number 1 spender, Toronto number 2, Galaxy number 3. I think you might naturally think LAFC, right? But it's Galaxy. Right. And Atlanta's right there too. So your cheapest spenders in the last, you could almost discount San Diego, but Philadelphia, cheapos.
But they're good though. Philadelphia's been good for the last few years.
Philadelphia is one of those teams that figured it out, how to be a low spending team and still be competitive. But they are rare. They are rare. So if you, I always kind of call out teams like Colorado. I always think they're kind of cheap. I always call out teams like New England. And if you think about it, where's New England in here? New England's way up here. New England is spending more than I thought, they are spending $16 million on average.
Wow.
On average. Now, if we go to my other graph, I'd have to do something. Numbers. If you go to this other graph here, you can actually look at individual teams through the year. Let me
center it a little bit.
Bring it over here a little bit. So you can see like New York City, for example, where they're spending. New York City, it's kind of a surprise because they have such deep-pocketed owners that they are not one of the they're not one of the big spending teams. Look at where they're always around that same area.
Could you bring it a little bit over? You can't see the total number. There you go. That's good.
So they're spending just above, on average, that's about 15 million, 10. I mean, like 12, 15 million on average. And you can see for like Inter Miami. Let me go find Inter Miami real quick. Inter Miami, you can see we were at a steady climb.
More money.
But it's interesting. This is the way, you would expect it to be done. So San Diego, for example, is down here this year. I expect them to do something similar. Maybe not as high as we are, but something similar, I would imagine. It's just it wasn't as black and white to me when you look at who's spending what. If we focus on just this year, we are miles above everybody else. We are spending over $46 million, close to $47 million. Keep in mind, the salary cap is 5 million, 5,950. So around 6 million. I know I'm messing with your views. Sorry about that. So Francisco asks, is MLS overpaying for players and overspending in salaries? I mean, I guess that's really subjective. Are they overpaying for players? I mean, it's kind of like you got to look at each roster and just say, did they overpay for this player, overpay for that player? I think there's a hit and miss on some of that. When you look at Toronto, that Italian experiment is going to go down as one of the biggest busts in the league, and that you would say was bad money. We're spending, and you'd say, man, we're probably not overspending. The people that we are giving money to, it kind of makes sense. But, oops, for 2025, Montreal is by far the lowest spending team.
And what's going to happen with Montreal? I mean, I'm pretty concerned because I remember the Saputos used to, spend some money. They brought in Drogba, I remember, for a few years, but they just haven't spent much money, and they're just kind of like coasting,
Yeah. I remember reading a small blurb somewhere that there was rumors of them potentially looking for additional investors, potentially for sale, but I think more just additional investors to help make them more competitive. And that was the other reason that they say that Vancouver is looking for a buyer, is because they would love to be up here competing with us, but they can't.
Right.
So, they can't. They just don't have the funds. So it's like you've got people that are, maybe I'm going to make this up, but maybe I'm like a 1 or 2 billionaire playing against people that are 5-6 billionaires, right? It's the billionaire game.
Right. The billionaires that have the more money. But if you think about it, we have a billionaire that's worth what, 2 billion maybe, and then Beckham's close to it. But they're not the deepest pocket owners. There's other teams that...
You would imagine like Red Bull, because they're part of a bigger corporation. You would imagine New York City FC. Where's NYCFC this year? NYCFC this year. I don't even see them. They're here somewhere. Near Red Bulls.
I don't see them.
Oh, wow. They're way down there.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
And when they've got the City Group behind them, they are just spending for, around 15 million, just under 15 million. But that is about the average. Most teams are spending, between 20 and 15. That's where the bulk majority of these owners are. And that's the owners you need to convince to spend more. And there's always been talk about teams like, New England, who has definitely got deep pockets, doesn't necessarily want to spend it on his MLS team. You got FC Dallas that's at the top of this. They're spending a decent amount of money, but they traditionally don't spend any more than that.
Peter, would you think, I know that, they're all basically partners in Major League Soccer. Do they all receive the same amount of money? Maybe that's why these guys, like the lower tier guys who maybe don't have the money, are saying, well, I'm still getting paid. I'm still getting my money thanks to Miami and all these other teams that are, raking in the bucks.
That's where I think a lot of us want the salary cap to go up. I don't think the salary cap's going to go away. We want the salary cap gone. I don't think it's going away. But it needs to go up. But it also needs to, they need to have a salary basement. And, there was talk about increasing the salary cap to, say, something like 50 million. But if you think about it, if at 50 million, you just basically get us. We're close to 50 million. And we weren't good enough to compete in Club World Cup. I mean, we made it out of the round, but we weren't good enough to get any further. So 50 million is still not enough, unless it's $50 million salary cap plus
DPs.
5 DPs. Players that you could pay above and beyond. So I would say I don't ever want to see the DPs go away until they say no salary cap, right? But keep the DPs, because as you raise the salary cap, you're still going to butt up against it eventually. So you can have, let's say, 4 or 5 players that you could put in more, right? So I think the DP makes sense. Just give us more DPs, but increase the salary cap. But so imagine though, if we're currently spending almost 47 million, and the salary cap is around 6 million.
Mm-hmm.
right? Isn't that what I said? I Googled it. It was 5,950,000 per team. I know you can't see it, but I can see it. I have to do that in order for me to see my notes. So right around 6 million. So we're spending 40 million over the salary cap.
And
If you increased, if you tripled, if you made the salary cap just at 25 million, but gave us 5 DPs, we can now bring that up. We're spending like $100 million because you could spread out millions of players money to your other players, but then you could have 4 or 5, because I forget about this 2 or 3 DPs, 4 or 5 DPs that you could pay above and beyond, but then those players below you could increase that quality. Then you're closer to maybe Liga MX.
Right. Well, some people could argue, because I mean, Al Halil was able to advance just one step beyond us, and they have basically no salary cap. I think they can bring in anybody that they want. They got all the money in the world. And yet that wasn't enough for them to compete with some of these other teams.
But at least you can't use spending as an excuse. That's just like, hey, the league's still developing and all that kind of stuff. They're still hiring over the hill players as well. There's but they're just unlimited how much they could spend on them. There still needs to be, I don't know. I was gonna say there still needs to be mechanisms in place, but the idea is to get rid of some of these stupid mechanisms. So I don't know.
Right.
But anyways, hey, we could go on about this more in future shows. If you guys ever, now that I've created this, if you guys have questions, I could look it up real quick. I've got data. I've got I've got this table is. I've got numbers. Now it's not individual players, but then again, I can go to the
money. That's the only thing you're missing, money.
I'm missing the real money. Yeah, of course. But I just find this graph super, super interesting. Just that we're seeing the spend over 6 seasons, the average. And we averaged a little over 30 million. And San Diego's down here averaging in their one season just a little over 10 million. So interesting stuff. I didn't see a lot of comments. So this is what I was afraid of. I showed these graphs to my wife, and she says, "You're going to bore people?" I said, "But I find it interesting." And she says, "No, you're going to bore people." I said, "Well, we'll try it." So,
hey, we still have 23 people live, so that's not too bad.
Yeah. So
plus we're competing with the USA game.
Yeah, exactly. We're competing against the USA game. If at the end of the day, it was an interesting challenge for me to be able to pull numbers and pull charts that made it look interesting to look at. So it was a fun experiment for me to do. But again, now more than anything, this is good research for me to have when we're having conversations and we talk about who is the cheapest team in the league. I could pull that up right away and take a look. So that's, I think, valuable. So it was a fun little homework experiment. I think Ed just threw it out there, but it puts like an earworm in my head, and then I'm like, okay, I guess I got to go do it. So there you go. Ed, what's going on with the Spanish channel?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're having difficulty finding a time. I've been, busy.
But you've been putting things up.
Marco's, busy, but so we haven't had an actual time. But we're putting videos up, guys. So just
there's stuff.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Here's the thing. For the Spanish channel, more so than this channel. Now, hey, look, we're getting close to 10,000 subscribers. So thank you to everybody. We really appreciate that. But this channel, we're pretty scheduled. Like, we might miss a week here and there because we got families and things to do. But if we're gonna do it, it's gonna be on time. With Ed, it's willy-nilly. So it's even more important for you to subscribe to the Spanish channel and hit that bell button, because the bell button is going to notify you whenever they go live. Because you may not know. It's just like, oh, surprise, Ed's live. So you need to click that bell so that you're notified anytime he goes live.
Ring my bell.
Ring my bell.
There you go.
Well, that's a wrap on this one, Ed, I'm excited for this weekend. We're going to finally be back into the stadium and get to go to a game. Finally, it's been forever, so we'll get to go see Nashville, and hopefully on this Wednesday, Inter Miami takes care of business against New England. So, thanks everybody in the chat for hanging out with us tonight. You were a lot of fun, and I appreciate one goal saying she likes my graphics. So, thank you. So everybody, thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.